We've had a lot of requests to look into the disappearance of Jeremy Jourdain. And it's a case that's really captured the attention of the Bemidji community.
Yeah, it has.
To understand why, though,
Yeah.
we need to go back to Halloween night 2016.
Okay.
Jeremy was a 17-year-old member of the Leech Lake band of Ojibwe,
Right.
and he was visiting friends in Bemidji for the night.
Okay.
So you have this seemingly normal celebration,
Yeah.
turns into a nightmare when he vanishes,
Right.
leaving behind this mystery that continues to haunt everyone who knew him.
What strikes me is how ordinary everything seemed.
Right.
Until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, Jeremy's at a party on Wood Avenue, and then, like, around midnight, he just walks away. It's almost as if he just, like, stepped into another dimension.
Yeah.
Based on how abruptly the trail goes cold.
His friends did try to follow him, right?
They did.
What happened there?
They did, but they lost sight of him quickly.
Okay.
Now, those first few hours after a disappearance are absolutely critical. It's when evidence is fresh.
Yeah.
Witnesses' memories are sharpest,
I get
and
it.
there's the best chance of finding someone.
So in those crucial early hours,
Yeah.
what were investigators able to find?
Well, tracking dogs were brought in,
Okay.
and they did pick up Jeremy's scent.
Mm-hmm.
The trail led them a few blocks away,
Okay.
right to the intersection of 6th Street and Wood Avenue Southeast, and then it just stops.
That's strange.
It is.
What did that mean?
Well, that abrupt end to the scent trail is
Yeah.
one of the most puzzling aspects of this case.
Yeah.
It suggests that Jeremy might have gotten into a vehicle there.
Okay.
Now the question becomes, did he get in willingly or was he forced?
That's a chilling thought.
It is.
Did the searches turn up any other clues that might point to what happened to him?
Despite an extensive search involving law enforcement, canine units, drones, divers,
Wow.
nothing substantial was found. And we're not just talking about a small area here.
Right.
Bemidji is surrounded by vast wooded terrain. And even with all the technology we have, searching such a large area is incredibly challenging.
So you have this massive search effort,
Right.
and yet Jeremy seemed to have vanished without a trace. What makes cases like this so difficult to crack?
There are a few things at play here.
Okay.
Firstly, the Bemidji area itself poses unique challenges.
All right.
You have the dense woods,
Yeah.
the numerous lakes, and the sprawling reservation land,
Right.
all of which make it incredibly difficult to conduct a thorough search.
I see.
Think about it. A small piece of evidence
Yeah.
could be hidden under a thick layer of leaves
Right.
or submerged in one of the many waterways, making it almost impossible to find.
It sounds like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Only the haystack is miles wide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you add in the factor of time.
Right.
As time passes, evidence deteriorates,
Yeah.
memories fade,
Yeah.
and leads grow cold.
Right.
In Jeremy's case, it's been 8 years.
Wow.
That's a long time for any investigation to remain active,
Yeah.
especially one with so few initial clues.
8 years.
Yeah,
That's an unimaginably long time for his family to live with this uncertainty.
it is. And it's important to remember that behind the statistics and the mystery,
Right.
there's a family enduring unimaginable pain.
Yeah.
Jeremy's mother, Tana Jourdain, has spoken about how much he loved basketball
Yeah.
and being around his family.
Right.
He was a good kid, in her words,
Yeah.
and he had so much potential.
It's heartbreaking.
It is.
Can you tell us a bit more about Tana Jourdain and how she's coped with this tragedy?
Tana has been incredibly strong.
Yeah.
She's been a constant advocate for her son, keeping his memory alive through vigils and events.
Right.
She's the one who reminds us that Jeremy was more than just a missing person.
Yeah.
He was a beloved son, brother, and friend.
Right.
She's a voice for all the families who are searching for answers, who refuse to let their loved ones be forgotten.
It's a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit,
It is.
especially in the face of such profound loss.
Yeah.
But Jeremy's case also brings to light a much larger issue
It does.
that's been plaguing Indigenous communities for far too long, hasn't it?
It has. The crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous people is a complex and deeply troubling issue.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Jeremy's story is far from unique.
Right.
You're right. Jeremy's case shines a harsh light on the alarming rates at which Indigenous people,
Yeah.
particularly women and youth, go missing.
Right.
And what makes it even more heartbreaking
Yeah.
is that these cases often don't get the attention they deserve.
Right. It's like their stories are hidden,
They are.
almost invisible to the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
And that lack of awareness is a big part of the problem, isn't it?
Absolutely. The lack of media coverage,
Right.
the limited resources allocated to these investigations,
Wow.
and the jurisdictional complexities between tribal, state, and federal authorities
Right.
all contribute to a sense that these cases are not being prioritized.
You mentioned jurisdictional issues.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on what makes that so challenging in cases involving Indigenous communities?
It's a tangled web, to be honest.
No.
When a crime occurs on tribal land, determining which agency has jurisdiction can be extremely complicated.
Yeah.
It often involves a complex interplay between tribal law enforcement, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and local or state police.
I imagine that kind of confusion and overlap can lead to delays and inefficiencies in the investigation.
Exactly, and those delays can be crucial.
Right.
Especially in those critical first hours and days after a disappearance.
Now, going back to Jeremy's case.
Okay.
His disappearance isn't the only one that's happened in the Bemidji area.
You're right.
Didn't another young person vanish a few years later?
Yes, you're thinking of Neva Kingbird.
Huh?
She was 15 years old when she disappeared in 2021.
Wow.
Also from the Bemidji area.
Hmm.
Her case, like Jeremy's, remains unsolved.
2 disappearances of Indigenous youth within a few years of each other.
Right.
Both in the same area.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if there could be a connection.
It's a question that investigators have explored.
Right.
The proximity of the disappearances, the similar age range of the victims.
Yeah.
It naturally raises the possibility that these cases might be linked.
Hmm.
However, at this point,
Yeah.
there's no concrete evidence to confirm a direct connection.
It's a chilling thought to consider.
It is.
And it highlights how crucial it is for investigators to thoroughly examine all possibilities, even the most unsettling ones.
I agree in cases like these,
Yeah.
where there are so few leads,
Uh-huh.
it's essential to consider all angles. It's about connecting the dots, looking for patterns, and being open to the possibility that something more sinister might be at play.
So where does Jeremy's case stand today?
Okay.
Are there any new developments?
The Bemidji Police Department still considers Jeremy's case to be active. They haven't given up hope, and they're still urging anyone with any information,
Right.
no matter how small or insignificant it might seem, to come forward.
I find that encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
It means they're still actively pursuing leads
Yeah,
and haven't let the case fall by the wayside.
that's right.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're still appealing to the public for information
Right.
tells me they haven't exhausted all their avenues of investigation.
It's a testament to their dedication and their commitment to finding answers for Jeremy's family.
It is.
But after 8 years, it must be incredibly frustrating for everyone involved.
It is, but it's important to remember that the passage of time doesn't diminish the need for justice.
Right.
Every missing person deserves to have their story told, their case investigated, and their loved ones given some sense of closure.
I couldn't agree more. But how can we as listeners help bring about that justice?
Yeah, correct.
What can we do to make a difference in cases like Jeremy's?
There are several things you can do.
Oh, right.
Firstly, keep Jeremy's story alive. Share it with your friends, family, and on social media.
Uh-huh.
The more people who know about his disappearance,
Right.
the greater the chance that someone with crucial information might come forward.
Spreading awareness is so powerful.
It is.
It's like casting a wider net,
Yeah.
hoping to catch even the smallest detail that could lead to a breakthrough.
Precisely. And beyond raising awareness, you can also support organizations that are actively working to address the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous people.
Can you give us some examples of those organizations and the kind of work they do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Organizations like the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center
Uh-huh.
and the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center
Right.
provide crucial support to families of missing and murdered Indigenous people.
Oh,
They offer advocacy, legal assistance, and counseling services.
wow, that's great.
They also work to raise awareness
Uh-huh.
and push for policy changes
Right.
to address the systemic issues that contribute to this crisis.
It sounds like they're on the front lines, fighting tirelessly for justice and change.
They are.
What can we do to support their efforts?
Donating to these organizations is a great way to provide them with the resources they need to continue their work.
Okay.
You can also volunteer your time, attend their events, and help amplify their message.
Right.
Every little bit helps.
So it's a combination of raising awareness, supporting those who are directly involved in the fight,
Yeah,
and putting pressure on those in power to address the systemic issues.
exactly. It's about using our voices, our resources, and our actions to create meaningful change.
Yeah.
We can't afford to stay silent on this issue.
And it's not just about Jeremy's case, is it?
No, it's not.
It's about advocating for all missing and murdered Indigenous people, about bringing them home,
Yeah.
and about ensuring that their stories are never forgotten.
You're absolutely right. It's about justice, accountability, and prevention. It's about creating a future where Indigenous communities are safe, their voices are heard, and their loved ones are protected.
You've painted a very clear picture of the challenges
Yeah.
and the need for action.
It is a call to action.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to shift our focus back to Jeremy.
Okay.
Amidst all the complexities of the investigation, the broader issues we've discussed,
Right.
it's easy to lose sight of the human element of this story.
It's true. Sometimes the statistics and the legal complexities
Right.
can overshadow the fact that we're talking about a real person,
Yeah.
a young man with hopes and dreams, who was loved deeply by his family and friends.
And a family that's been living with this unimaginable void for 8 years.
Exactly. And while we can't bring Jeremy back,
Right.
we can keep his memory alive by sharing his story and continuing to push for answers.
His mother, Tana, has described him as a good kid who loved basketball and being with his family.
Right.
Those simple details make his absence all the more poignant.
They do. It reminds us that Jeremy wasn't just a name in a missing persons report.
Yeah.
He was a son, a brother, a friend, a member of a community that loved him.
I wonder if Jeremy were to come home today, what would we want to tell him?
That's a powerful question.
Yeah.
I think I'd want him to know that he hasn't been forgotten,
Right.
that his disappearance has sparked a movement, a determination to bring justice, not just for him, but for all missing and murdered Indigenous people.
I tell him how his story has touched so many lives, how it's raised awareness, and how it's fueled a commitment to create change.
And that we won't rest until all those who have been taken are returned, until justice is served, and until Indigenous communities are safe and their voices are heard.
So to our listeners, as we conclude this deep dive into Jeremy Jourdain's disappearance, we leave you with this.
Okay.
Remember, Jeremy, share his story and join us in demanding justice and change. Let's ensure that his memory becomes a catalyst for a brighter future. A future where tragedies like this are no longer a reality for Indigenous communities.
I hope so.
Thank you for listening.